I bet I could.
That's gonna be the best. All right guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we have Dukes of Duval with us here, and we have a special video for you guys because Mosasaur has been so generous to sponsor this video, and they asked me if we would help them promote their new battery, which is doing very well on Amazon. So let's take a look at this battery. Joe, what exactly do we have in this box that's off camera?
Yeah, so what they provided us was a 48-volt lithium battery that can be used for multiple applications, but in this particular situation, we're going to be placing it in my golf cart, which is pretty exciting.
And so why is it so easy to just take this battery and put it right in here without doing a lot of extra work?
Yeah, so for the most part, they're kind of a plug and play situation. Depending on your setup and what you have on your golf cart, mine may be a little bit different because of some of the things that I've included on the golf cart, whether it be converters, other things of that nature that are in there that may be some additional wiring. But for the most part, it's very straightforward. You're taking the lead positive and the lead negative, and you're connecting it without having to use all the additional batteries that you normally have in the golf carts. And then amongst other things that you have to hook up, like I said, whether it be the converter, radios, things of that nature, but for the most part, very simple.
So when I did my golf cart, I had also lead acid batteries, but I had to do my motor and controller and my solenoid at the same time, making it way more complicated than this setup. I feel like we can get this done in a way faster amount of time. And also, you did order a new dash, correct?
I did, yes. And one thing to know about this golf cart is that I've already spent the time in the past, a couple years ago, doing a full build out of the golf cart. Just like Brad's, I did motor, controller, solenoid, wiring to 2-gauge. So this thing is ready to take on this battery, and it's going to work very well with this particular setup because it's already a great setup, but it's going to be even better with this lithium battery.
Right, and also the only other thing we really have to figure out is that we have to get the battery mounted in there, and it doesn't really come with specific hardware to put a tray down and mount the battery. So we're gonna have a little bit of figuring out to do with how to get the battery flush down in the motor bay, and then once we're done with that, we can start figuring out the sound system and running the wires for the new speakers and all that stuff that goes with the install.
Yeah, and I think that the way the battery's built, I think it's got various different ways that this thing can be set in there. So I don't think we're gonna have that much of an issue, which should be pretty easy because again, this is kind of a universal application with the battery. So I think what we'll find is when we pull everything out, the tray down below will have plenty of different options for us to put any bolts and accessories or what it needs bolt-wise to bolt it down. I think we'll be fine.
And I remember when we did mine, the battery weighs over 100 pounds, so it takes two people, one on each handle, to kind of get it up and get it into the bay.
Yeah, and his was a 72 volt, so a little bit heavier than this one. I think by
36, I think it was.
Yeah, maybe by 30 pounds. So it should be very easy to manage. And that's another thing that we're really excited about is get all this additional weight that we have with all these flooded batteries that we have in there now to be able to go with this. Huge benefit, amongst many other benefits.
Also, we'll be able to pull out all the cables that connect the batteries to each other. So again, that's weight savings and just you're minimizing parts, so that's great for this thing. The less weight you have, the faster this thing's gonna be and the more acceleration. So when we get back from this short break, we're gonna go ahead and unbox the Mosasaur battery and show you guys what's in the package. We haven't looked at it either. It's fully boxed right here next to the camera. So when we get back, we're gonna take a look at this.
Yeah, and I'm excited to talk about all the great benefits that come along with this battery. We have a lot of really cool things that this battery does for this golf cart. So I'm excited.
Agree. So after this short break, we'll be back and we'll show you guys the Mosasaur.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and open up the box for the Mosasaur 48-volt lithium battery.
With the SCSR patented scissors. Packaged very well. There's a lot of tape on it. And it's clearly marked lithium for shipping.
Yep. The box is pretty thick too for protection, which is good.
Now we saw some videos where some got damaged, but we're thinking that that maybe was a one-off because this box doesn't look bad at all.
Nope, it looks like it's good.
All right.
I think they probably, since the last time, they took some protective measures, maybe redid their boxing a little bit. Unfortunately, you're kind of at the mercy of whoever the shipping company is to make sure that they don't beat up your product. So, all right, so as we come in here, everything's pretty straightforward. So we have the main battery here, good sized battery, but not too big, which is going to be nice to be able to maximize your compartment, to be able to, put other stuff in there if you want to put additional electronics, you want to store stuff in there, whatever it may be. So we have the battery, and then it looks like we have one main box here that's going to probably have a lot of our wiring and whatnot. In here as well, we have some of the stuff for fastening purposes, some covers for the positive and negative, and we have some information from Mosasaur. So
awesome.
Excited about that. Oh, and we got one more box in here, and we'll see what's inside here in just a minute.
All right.
All right, so the first package is obviously we have fasteners here. So it looks like it's just nuts and bolts. These all look like pretty good stainless steel, which is good. So no rusting in the future. And we'll be using this probably just to fasten the battery down, I would imagine. And maybe use these potentially for the charging system, but we'll see how that looks when we get to that.
Okay.
All right, of course we have these covers. Not sure if we're going to utilize these or not, but these may come in handy just to kind of keep something over top of it after we have all of our wires connected to the positive and negative terminal. And then let's see what's in this box here. All right, and it looks like we have our main dash gauge, which is really nice. In my particular setup on this golf cart, we're still kind of deciding whether or not we're going to have it. I think we're going to go with it, but because this thing has Bluetooth technology and the way that we're going to set up the new dash, we might have an opportunity to be able to display right on top of an iPad or some sort of a tablet, which is nice that they have that feature, but we're going to consider this heavily as an alternative just to have as a backup. Even if we don't put it on the dash, we may put it in the battery compartment just to have that there. So we got the cable and we have the LCD screen for us here.
So what kind of information is shown on the LCD screen?
Yeah, so we got to kind of get into that. What I have to imagine is going to probably give us information on, I would think, number of cycles, how much power it has, maybe give us some information on the battery itself. I believe that there's probably individual lithium separated cells that will probably give us information on that. So I think it's going to provide a lot of good stuff. But the biggest and most important thing is to know where your battery sits at any given time to make sure that you have enough power to get wherever you're going for the rest of the day if you're out having a good time. So, all right.
All right.
All right, we'll go through this in just a minute. Looks like there's probably some important information that we need to know about the battery, and we will break right into here. And I need the scissors again.
Those are patented SCSR compound scissors. So far, so good, man. The packaging's perfect. I don't see any damage to anything.
Yep, looks really good. Again, good packaging. And in here, we have the charging system itself.
And this is something we were really curious about, whether it had a male connector for just a standard extension cord to go onto.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I'm excited about, that hopefully that is the case. We're going to figure that out pretty quick.
There's your port right there.
So we have a port here that will connect. And I assume that there's an adapter that goes along with it. All right, so we were able to take it out. It is a two-person job. It is very compact, which is great because again, we talked about giving that space back inside the battery compartment, but it is heavy. So it's roughly 100 pounds. So it is a two-person job to lift this thing up, which is great from the standpoint that it's only 100 pounds in comparison to what we're going to save when we remove all the lead acid batteries. So as we pulled it out, we did an inspection on it to make sure that everything was good. Their packaging held up very well, and the delivery of it looks great. There's not a single problem with it at all. Everything's good, so it's a good.
Came out good, and it's there's literally no damage, and the fit and finish is perfect. They got really nice heavy-duty handles here, stainless steel screws. They have like a tamper protection thing here that's telling you not to open up the battery. And then up here on the front of the battery, it shows you all the features. So it's 5-year warranty. It's lithium ion phosphate. It's 65, so IPS 65 means it can handle 6 feet of water for 5 minutes. The tolerance of the battery is 140 degrees Fahrenheit at the top end, -4 at the bottom end. It's maintenance free, so there's no water, there's no opening up the battery. It's a fast charge, I think 2 hours from 50% to 100%. And they're showing you here that they feel like your acceleration will be better with lithium than you had with lead acid. So that's kind of a look at the outside of the battery. The fit and finish is on point. I see no problems whatsoever with the manufacturing. It's kind of got a little QC pass thing here saying that someone inspected the outside before it got shipped. So that way, if something happens in shipping, you know, you're protected by that. So
yeah, and just based on the size, looking at this quickly, what I would say is that this is equivalent to close to three regular batteries. And most golf carts, you'll find that you have 6. In some particular years, if it's 48 volt, you may have 4. But this is definitely much denser in size, which is great, and it's going to offer a lot of opportunity to be able to put more stuff and to work, more importantly, to work inside there. I know in the past when I've replaced batteries or done any type of upgrade from any electronic, it's cumbersome. There's not much room inside that tray. I mean, the batteries literally just take up the entire compartment. So this will let us have a lot of room to move our hands. So that's going to be a nice feature when we put this in. All right, so we're back. Obviously, we've got the battery unboxed. Everything was in great shape. So I figure we spend a little bit of time talking about the golf cart itself that we're going to be adding this to. This particular battery, I believe it's universal for the most part. We kind of talked about how we're going to fasten it. We'll figure that out.
Yep.
But this cart, a couple years ago, I spent some quality time and money upgrading the controller, which we did a 500 amp all-tracks controller. We replaced the solenoid and also the motor with an upgraded motor itself. So as it sits right now, it has 6 8-volt batteries, which equals the 48 volts, flooded Trojan batteries. When I first bought the batteries, like always, they had a ton of power. I mean, very strong, very powerful, but over time, that power obviously, you know, dwindles. Diminishes over time. So I'd have to look, but I believe these are 2021, so they've got 4 good years, and I use my golf cart a lot. Like, I go everywhere in my golf cart, so it's got a lot of hours on them. They still hold power, but I certainly can tell you that my distance is not as long anymore. My power is not as strong anymore. And the maintenance and all that other stuff has obviously been something that's been kind of driving me crazy as well. But with that being said, with all those upgrades, this cart is already ready and is dying for something like this here, because it's going to unleash the power that it has in it already that I never got the chance to really do other than a short period of time when the batteries are brand new. And even with the brand new batteries, it still offers so much more that it's going to unleash a lot, and this cart is going to go extremely fast. I don't have an idea of how fast it'll go just yet. I can tell you it does roughly 30 now, but I suspect when I open the controller up, adjust the modifications on it, that we're going to find that this cart will probably do 35, maybe 40. We'll have to see, but this thing is going to definitely show us what it's got. So I'm excited about this upgrade. This is big. It's well overdue, and I think that it's going to be an easy install with everything already done, so it's going to go very fast.
So let's talk a little bit about, with lead acid, some of the maintenance that you have to do. So maybe people have not owned a golf cart before and they don't understand what they have to do with lead acid. What is the maintenance for lead acid? How much does that cost? How often do you have to do this?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that the maintenance is a lot, but there is maintenance, and there's side effects to having lead acid batteries. So one thing that you know is that every time you come in, you're going to plug it up. In the charging cycle itself, it's always going to I'm going to say exude, or it's going to overflow acid that comes from the batteries. That's just a normal part of the process, right?
What are you actually putting in the batteries?
Yeah, so we use water, so it's a mixture of acid and water. Okay. But every time you plug it in, it's going to
it boils.
It boils, right? Yeah. It gets hot, it gets heated up, and it flows over. So one of the biggest things is that, one, you have to make sure that you're constantly keeping water in there. So we use distilled water. I keep gallons at the house. You're constantly having to make sure every couple of months that you have it. And there's no way to know unless you pull the battery cap off, you know, do a visual inspection to see whether or not it needs water. And then from there, typically if one's low, they're probably all low, and then you're filling it up. So that's happening every 3 months that you should be doing that. And often, if you're in maybe a cold environment or somewhere where you're using you're charging more cycles, that could be happening more repeatedly than that itself. But that is work. And the other part of that is that when that's boiling over, depending on where you're parking your golf cart, it's causing damage.
It goes on the floor.
It goes on the floor.
In the battery bay. So
luckily with the club car, it's an all aluminum based cart. So with the frame itself, so what's nice about that is that even though it overflows, it doesn't cause much corrosion. However, there are other golf carts, including E-Z-Go, that still, to this day, as far as I know, use a regular metal frame.
So those will probably corrode.
They do,
more.
yeah. And we've actually made a video one time where we took one apart and it was just absolutely destroyed. We were able to kind of get it back, but it's pretty rough. So that's really one of the bad side effects of having it, right? The other thing is that inside the compartment bay, when you have all those wirings and you have all those connections, you see corrosion. That happens a lot.
From the battery.
From the battery.
It can get on the wiring too.
And I can't tell you how many times that I've had friends, because we obviously dabble in a lot of golf cart stuff, that have come to me and say, I don't know what's going on with my golf cart. And typically what I'll do is, first thing is I go right to all the battery terminals, I'll check the connection, I'll wiggle it, and what'll happen? One just falls right off, right? It looks like it's on there, but it's completely corroded. This is going to be a major help in that regard, because you're not going to have all that acid flowing out, getting all over, corroding things, which is really, really good.
It's also kind of the same when you have a solar power system. So these people that have solar power, they'll have a room with like 20 or 30 batteries in it, and the corrosion just over time just kills the battery terminals and it just disconnects. So they have to go back in and they have to put new wiring in and all that. So that's another good thing about this. And also, not to mention the cost of distilled water is probably, how much per gallon do you think it is?
Maybe a couple bucks, but you know, often I'm using 2.5 gallons probably in most cases. When they're really, really low, that might be a little bit over, but you're constantly having to buy it. I keep a constant stock at my house all the time. And it's you know, you got to open it up, you got to pull off all the caps, and it's probably a 15-20 minute process to go through it, and that's just one thing you don't have to do anymore. So you save time, you're not getting the corrosion, and if you lose those battery terminals or those cables, I mean, those are costly too. So if you have to replace those, it's expensive as well.
So everything has gone up in price, so I'm sure that the wiring for the golf carts has gone up equally as well. So they're not cheap. They're high gauge cabling to handle the current on the batteries, and so I'm sure replacing those probably adds some expense as well.
Absolutely.
So I think, but we haven't really tested this yet. For myself, I know that I had to buy distilled water probably every couple of weeks, and I would spend like 10 bucks. So the price difference for the lead acid versus the lithium ion is sort of falling directly into line with not having any maintenance.
Correct. Yep. The savings alone from that perspective, yeah, and I think we could talk about that, because that's probably the biggest thing is the pricing. Most people, again, want them, but they've just been fearful of the price. They know all the benefits, and that's admittedly one of the reasons why I just hadn't made the change yet. But now, mind you, these are 2021 batteries, so you know, I had 3 years of wait time to figure it out. And they're there. Mosasaur especially, they got great pricing on this battery right now on Amazon. We'll show you some details about that in the video. But it is, to me, it is pretty much equal to having buying lead acid batteries versus having lithium, and it's an absolute no-brainer. It's time to get rid of the lead acid, and it's time to make the conversion to lithium.
So right now, I just wanted to touch on that, what Joe just said. So the Mosasaur 48 volt, this is 105 amp hours. That's the big one. That's the biggest one you can get, even if you get 72 volt. 105 amp hour is the biggest battery capacity you can get. Right now, the battery's $18.99 with a $700 coupon.
Wow, that's huge.
So it was $400 yesterday.
Even cheaper.
So they've dropped it to $700. So this battery's what, $1,300?
Yeah, and that's a great deal. That with that additional discount, it is less, I believe, now than lead acid batteries. I'm almost positive.
It's very close, and it's worth it, even if it's a couple $100 more. But yeah, literally yesterday they applied this $700 coupon, and I think that they're trying to reach out to a bunch of the content creators. And when they got that going, they did the extra discount so they could get some more batteries moving.
Yeah, so hopefully by the time this video comes out, the discount is still there. Even if it's $500 or any discount, even at the $1,800 price mark, it's still a fantastic deal right now, in my opinion. And we've got a lot to break out about this battery, but all things tell us this is going to be a phenomenal battery, and it's going to be well worth making the conversion for that price.
So versus lead acid batteries, what kind of charge cycles can you get out of this lithium ion battery? What are we looking at before it's not always guaranteed that it's going to die at a certain time. It's kind of like a light bulb. It might die, it might not. But what are they telling you that you can do charge cycle wise with this 48-volt Mosasaur.
Yeah, so there's a lot of information about this battery. Not all I can recite off the top of my head. So it's probably best that we refer, because I know there's information that's online about that. But the biggest thing is that you're going to get an increased amount of cycles. And what we consider cycles is wearing the battery down to a certain percentage, then charging it back up. With lead acid batteries, every time you're doing that, it's obviously wearing the batteries down, and that's what causes the batteries to wear out over time. I would say that based on what I know about the battery and what we looked at quickly versus this, you're going to get 4 times the life cycles that you would get out of a lead acid battery, maybe more, you know, depending on
Not only that, they charge faster.
They do charge faster.
So they'll come from almost 0 to 100% faster, but I remember this in my head, the 50%, so if you charge your battery, discharge your battery down 50%, it's 2 hours to go from 50 to 100%. So that's good. If you're out all day, you know, whether you're on the golf course or whether you're in your neighborhood, if you need to take a little break, you can put your cart on the charger and it'll be back in 2 hours. You can start having fun again.
Yep. And again, those amount of cycles that you can go through, that's a lot of time. So I suspect, and I kind of calculated in my mind how often I use mine, how many times I charge mine, that this battery is going to last me over 10 years.
10 years.
Easily.
And in that time, you probably would have bought at least 2 sets, maybe 3. 2 optimistically.
Yep.
If you stretch them out when they're on the end of their life, but
for the flooded batteries, yep.
Yeah.
So the one thing to know is that there are different manufacturers for these flooded batteries. I've always been a Trojan fan. They admittedly are the best when it comes to flooded batteries, but they're costly. They're the most expensive. You're going to pay for it. If you're not buying Trojans and you're buying some other knockoff, a Die Hard or whatever battery it is, I promise you're not going to get much time out of it. You're going to find that you're going to have a battery that dies, and before you know it, I see this often. If you have Trojan batteries, what I typically see is that you will have those same Trojan batteries through the entire time until you're ready to replace, right? With those knockoff batteries that you think you're saving money on, every time I see it, they'll have 4 batteries that were all the same date, and then they'll have 2 other random batteries in there that failed that they had to replace. So that's another big benefit too as well, because you want equal power coming from all of those. So you don't want a couple of batteries that are 2 years old or 3 years old and then a brand new battery. This literally is going to be the lifesaver because it's going to stay in perfect harmony all the way across.
You don't have to balance the different batteries out, so they're not going to fail.
It's going to be great. Yep.
And also, not only that, but your resale value from this is going to be higher than lead acid. If you have lithium, somebody's going to be more willing to pay you more for your cart. It's all the work's already been done. All the money's already been spent for the lithium. All they have to do is get in the cart and drive it. You don't have to worry about this for, at least 5 years. 5-year warranty also on the battery.
Which is a great warranty.
5-year warranty. So if the battery fails within 5 years, Mosasaur will take care of you within 5 years.
Absolutely. I mean, at 5 years, if it hasn't failed in 5 years, it's gonna stand a long time, in my opinion, in most things. If we're on the topic of power, the other thing that's really beneficial, depending on your application and what you're using it for. So, like Brad, I like power. I want to go fast in my golf cart. I want to be able to get on a main road, get up to speed, get up the flow with traffic. This battery is going to give you constant power through the entire ramping up of speed. With batteries like I have now, when I hit the gas, it's a slow gradual, and I can watch the gauge and it just drops that power down immediately and then has to build back up over time. You're not going to have this problem here. You're going to have power immediately, a strong surge of power that's going to last all the way through, and it's phenomenal, right? So that's going to make this thing not only very strong from the get-go of taking off, but to be able to give that additional power that you really need when you're going uphill, and then if you're getting up to the point of your top speed, to be able to push past that, which is really good. So this is going to be a phenomenal addition from that respect alone, with the power that you receive from it.
Not only that, the discharge of these batteries is slower, so you could probably, they're saying with this battery you're good for 35 or 40 miles of range. Now I don't know what that would equate to with lead acid, but this guy, I have never run mine below 60%. I'd say now I have 72 volt, so it's a little bit different, but I've never run it past like 60 or 70%, and I've gone 20, 25 miles. Never even come close to even discharging the other battery that I have in mine, and they're both lithium ion. The only difference is 72 volt versus 48.
One thing to know is obviously every application is different. If you are taking a bone stock golf cart that's got a 250 amp Curtis controller in it, stock controller, stock everything, this battery is going to literally drive you around for hours and hours and hours.
It doesn't have to draw so much power because it's only a smaller amperage controller. So yeah, you'll get more range out of your stock golf cart as well.
Absolutely.
We don't know the actual specs because we haven't really done any kind of testing, but we already know that this is going to be sick with upgraded motor control or solenoid. So I'm excited to get this thing installed, but first we have to remove the current battery. All right, we're back in the Supercar Street Racing Garage. We got Joe here, Dukes of Duval, with his new Mosasaur 48 volt 105 amp hour battery. But what we failed to talk about is some of the performance gains that you get from this battery simply because of weight savings. So there's a significant saving of weight when you go from lead acid to lithium ion simply because of the cells are lighter in the lithium ion versus the same amount of voltage and amperage. So let's talk a little bit about that. What are we looking at as far as weight savings here?
Yeah, so what we looked up was, and we confirmed, I believe it's around 68 pounds per battery. So in here, I have 6 8-volt batteries. So you do the math on that. So we looked online, we're gonna verify it, but I believe that they weigh around 63 pounds per battery. So you times that over 6 batteries, that's a significant amount of weight. These come in right at around 100 pounds. So basically this is equivalent to less than 2 batteries, which is pretty phenomenal. So if we're gonna get a savings of 230, 250 pounds, that's significant because if you're a golf cart rider, you know adding 2 additional bodies is a lot of weight, right? So that's the way I look at it, right? Adding 2 more bodies to it really slows you down. So you're reducing that, which is gonna be significant in regards to your overall power, speed, and all that. So huge savings in weight.
So right here in front of us, we have a scale. All we have to do is just tap the scale, it'll come on, we can throw our battery on, well, eventually it'll come on. Throw our battery on here, a single battery, see what that weighs, and then compare it to the 105 pounds for the lithium ion. We'll know exactly how much weight savings we have, not to mention the cabling and other things we get to throw away as well.
Correct, yep. So I think we're gonna go ahead and get started of removing a battery. So we'll take one out, we'll weigh it, and let's do a comparison. I'm also interested to see comparison with the size of the battery. This may be less than 3 batteries in size.
Yeah.
This itself.
Definitely skinnier and also less wide and less long than 3 batteries, I would say, just by looking at it.
I think the battery is probably equivalent to the
same width.
To the same width, but I think that it's going to come up less than 3. So we'll put them all together and we'll show you guys.
It is 13 and 1/8 wide by 20 inches, we'll call it long.
Yep.
So why don't you measure one of those batteries, and then we'll show you guys once we get the battery out. Make sure you go across the terminals.
Roughly 10 inches.
10 by?
Roughly 7 3/4.
Oh, okay.
So 2 inches.
2 inches less with this one, right?
Yep. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get in here and start taking out these batteries. So obviously we're gonna take off the seat here, set that to the side. Right now, when you're looking at this setup, right? So obviously these batteries are in a series. So what will happen is that you'll have a positive that comes off the solenoid, and then you'll have a negative that comes off the controller.
Okay.
But with that, from here, you're gonna see that you have cables that are connecting to each one in a series, right? As you can see, these are not your typical wires. I custom made these 2-gauge wires to really beef it up in preparation for my controller that I added the solenoid and everything else. And now that I have the battery, it's perfect timing because it's really gonna be able to handle a serious load on it. So what we'll have to do to get these batteries out is that with this particular card, this again has 6, we'll have to remove these brackets right here that are what we would call like a tie down for it. Once these are removed from here, we'll go in and take out each individual battery. I have a specialized strap that you take to use to lift them out. So we'll get working on that, and then we'll show you what it looks like from a weight perspective and comparison.
Perfect. All right, let's get moving.
62.6 pounds.
Wow, so the internet was right. It's 63.
And it's probably missing a little bit of water too. So I bet if it had fully topped off with water,
that's crazy.
63.6 yep.
pounds. All right, guys, we took all the old lead acid batteries out, and you did see that the battery weighed 63 pounds.
Correct, yep.
Incredible. That probably weighs more than like one of your children.
These nuts.
One child.
Maybe. Yes.
So we're gonna get the new battery in, but first, we're gonna conclude this video by showing you guys the compartment here. So what we have left here basically is an inverter. So this converts 12 volts to 110 volts. We have a voltage reducer here that goes from 48 volts to 12. Then we have a fuse box here for all the 12 volt accessories, and everything for the golf cart is located behind this metal panel here. When you pull this off, everything's mounted to the back of this. So what is our next step on the next video?
Yeah, so obviously the first thing I want to do, anytime that you have an opportunity, in my opinion, to clean up, like this is a good time. Don't just throw it back in there. Get in there, clean it all up, make sure it looks good. And then we're going to start measuring out. One of the things that I kind of forgot about was this center spine here, which I think that's going to give us a little bit of a challenge, including these wires. So I think in yours, we had to come in.
We cut that.
We had to cut that out a little bit, which is not a big deal. A simple Sawzall, Dremel tool, something like that. It's just plastic. Should come out there pretty easy.
And if I remember correctly, we also had to cut out part of this part where the charge port was because it was in the way of us getting the new charge port installed. So we cut some of this guy out right here too, this little hump right there.
Yep.
So in the next video, we're gonna go ahead and get this all prepped up for the new battery. Go ahead and get that battery installed, and then we will update you guys when we're ready to do that.
Sounds good.
Sounds good?
Yep.
All right, let's get out of here.